So you're looking to buy your first bike, but you don't know where to start. Well, today we'll be going over everything you need to know to buy your first bike. From figuring out what kind of motorcycle you want to buy, to finding a good deal on Marketplace, to bringing that bad boy home, and everything in between. This video will have you set on buying your first motorcycle. So the first thing people always ask is, what's the best starter bike? But to tell you the truth, there isn't really a best starter bike. I could give you a list of many different bikes that I think would be good to start on, but ultimately it's up to you to decide what your personal taste is and what kind of riding you want to do. You got to take into account your budget, what kind of riding you want to be doing, what style of bike you want. And I mean, that's different from person to person. So there's not just going to be a one size fits all bike. If you want to get into sport bike riding, I suggest something like a Ninja 400. Not too hard on the budget, styling is nice, and honestly, it's probably the best in its class. As you can see, you can't really see though. As you can see, the ergonomics aren't too bad on this thing. I mean, you're in a slightly more aggressive position than I'd say like a standard or naked bike. Really help you get prepared to get into something like a super sport. But this is a good start for if you want to get into sport bikes. I actually started on a Ninja 250. I'll have it pictured here. If you guys want me to go over all the bikes I've owned in my 5 years of riding, let me know in the comments. I can make a video on that. I don't even know if they make the 400 anymore. It might be the 500 now. But other solid picks in the sport bike category could be the Honda CBR 300R and the Yamaha R3. The Yamaha R3 has a little bit more of an aggressive position, even more than this 400. I'm not too sure about the CBR 300 because I have not sat on one before. My ultimate pick would be a used Ninja 400, or if you want to buy brand new, then you could get a Ninja 500. Now, if you want to get into cruisers, I would recommend something like this. This is I think a 2015 or 2011. I'm not too sure, I forgot. But this is a Harley Davidson Iron 883. This is very, very beginner friendly if you want to get into cruising. It's going to be a little heavier than a sport bike, obviously a lot more than a 400 and honestly even more than my 600 Super Sport. But if you're into cruising, this thing's pretty light compared to all the other big kahuna bikes that exist out there. These are also relatively cheap. I don't believe they make this model anymore, so you do have to get this used. But you should really be looking for something light and nimble for your first bike, just so you're able to control it. And you know, if you drop it, or I guess when you drop it, you'll be able to pick it up. Other bikes in the cruiser category I would include would be the Honda Rebel 500, and I believe it's the Kawasaki Vulcan is another one. But yeah, pretty solid bike to start on. Pretty comfortable too, as you can see. The ergonomics compared to the Ninja 400, I'm really just sitting up straight here, not really leaning over at all. And I mean, it's very comfortable for the back. So if you have back problems or, you know, spine problems, I'd say get into something more upright like this Iron 883. Oh! Well, obviously we don't have every style of motorcycle in this garage. You can see there's only 4 if you count the project bike over here. I'll put a list of other styles of bikes that you could get and might be interested in. Just, you know, do your own research, do your own due diligence for what you want to get. I only picked these 2 just because obviously I have them in the garage and because they're probably the most popular style of motorcycles. You know, if you don't like these 2 over here, then, you know, find what you do like and don't just settle for what you don't like. Unless you do plan on selling it in like a month and you just want to practice, you find a good deal on like, you know, a Ninja 250, a Ninja 400, or a Harley, you know, any small displacement, you know, beginner bike. I'd say jump on it, practice on it, and then when you're ready to sell it, it'll probably sell fast. If you could store a bike during the winter, I would suggest buying a bike now. Well, now being winter is when I'm recording this. Prices do plummet during the winter, obviously, depending on what state you're in, whatever state, country, area, wherever you live. Depending on if the weather gets too cold, prices for motorcycles do drop. You could probably find some pretty good deals of people just trying to clear out storage from their garage. So if you have the means of storing and winterizing a motorcycle, I would suggest hopping on Marketplace and looking for some good deals. Let's go on the computer and let's see how we can find a good deal on Marketplace. Whoa, slow down a little bit. There's still one more thing we need to address. Your budget. unless you have an unlimited amount of money to spend, which I'm guessing you don't because you're watching this video, you should really consider how much you spend on your first motorcycle. I can't really tell you how much to spend on your first motorcycle since I'm not sure exactly what you want, but for comparison, I spent about $1,100 on my first bike. Just make sure you set a budget that you're comfortable spending and make sure you don't go over that budget. This brings me to my next point. Should you buy new or used? I would personally suggest buying used since this is your first bike, so you're most likely going to drop it. There's a saying that a lot of riders say, it's not if you drop it, it's when you drop it. So I'd like to think that you'd feel less bad if you dropped a bike that's already been used and scratched up. Most beginner bikes that you look on Marketplace have probably been dropped, but it's ultimately up to you if you want to go used or new. There's pros and cons to each. Obviously, new is going to be more expensive than buying a used bike, but you're going to have that reliability of it being used. You're probably going to have the factory warranty as well. If you buy used, that warranty is probably going to be gone, but you're going to be spending a lot less money. But assuming that you go with a used bike, where would you look for one? Well, I like to look on Facebook Marketplace. Some people use Craigslist, but I like to stick to Marketplace since it's what I'm most familiar with. So let's go do that. Okay, so here I'm on Marketplace. As you can see, I have a couple things here. These aren't bikes. There's one here. This I think is actually pretty nice. 750K, nice. Old 4-banger Honda, that's cool. But anyways, so at this point, I'm guessing you've decided what bike you want to go for. For the purpose of this video, let's say I want to look for a Ninja 400. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to search up Ninja 400 and we're going to go through some listings. Prices will differentiate depending on where you live. So anything you see here may not be the same thing that you'll see where you live. It might be more expensive, it might be cheaper, but generally the prices for Ninja 400s right now probably range from between $4,000 to $5,500 for a used one, depending on the condition, mileage, all of that. So let's go through, let's see if we could find a good deal here. Here's not a bad one. $4,500 for a 2020 KRT and has ABS, so that'll help if you're a beginner. But yeah, only 3,400 miles too. Not bad, well 35. Already has an exhaust on it, so that's a plus. Owner seems to be pretty descriptive, which is a good thing to see. You don't want someone that's just kind of bare bones with their descriptions. It's probably not a good sign, or they're just lazy. But you want to know as much about the bike as possible. You could always ask them, message them, hey, when was the last time this, got its oil changed? Are all the fluids up to date? Is it maintenance up to date? Obviously, you don't know if they're telling the truth. You kind of have to take that at face value. And like I said earlier, if you can't find a good deal on the one bike that you want, don't be afraid to branch out. For example, here we have a 2015 Honda CBR, I think it's a 500. $3,000, not bad at all. Runs and rides, shit has been replaced recently. Cosmetic work, so yeah, probably dropped. Oh yeah, well that's why it's $3,000, right? That's rough. Vandalism? I don't know. Clean title, whatever. You could always buy new fairings if you want. I wouldn't suggest it. Get something that I'd say get something that is still nice to look at. You don't want to be spending money on parts on your first bike and stuff. So kind of just get something that that you love right out the gate. If you get something that you don't like right out the gate, you're probably not going to like riding it either. You don't want to be seen on it, Now, when you finally find the bike that you want to buy, you want to make sure you bring someone that knows how to ride. It's important that you test ride the bike before buying it, obviously. Just like a used car, you want to make sure everything's working and in good condition before you purchase it. It's a big purchase. So make sure you bring someone who's experienced. Make sure you bring your cash. Most people want cash in hand when test riding. They do the whole you drop it, you buy it type of thing. So make sure you bring the cash with you. Obviously, you want to make sure brakes are working, brake pads are good, rotors are good. You want to make sure the clutch is working. You want to make sure all the fluids are up to date, coolant, oil, brake fluid. You want to make sure front brake, rear brake is working. You want to make sure the mirrors are all good. Cosmetics, check for scratches and such. If you see any signs of frame damage, I would stay away from it. If the title's not a clean title, I would stay away from it. You don't know what kind of accident that bike got in. You don't know what they did to fix it. I would generally stay away from something with the rebuild title if you're not experienced with knowing how to fix that kind of stuff. Make sure that it accelerates fine, there's no stuttering, you don't hear any weird knocks, that little rod knock. Make sure everything sounds healthy, make sure it's shifting healthy, all the gears, 1 down, 5 up, or how many gears the bike has. You're able to go through all the gears. Make sure it brakes fine. Once that's all checked and good to go, you can buy the bike. Now, if you don't have anyone to test ride the bike, I really just wouldn't recommend buying one until you do find someone who can test ride it. You know, it's kind of just a shot in the dark on whether you get a good bike or not. Once you buy the bike, you can just ride it home like this. I'm just kidding, don't ride it home like that. Make sure that you ride it home safely and you're obeying all laws. Now, if you don't have someone to test ride the bike for you, you can always just take the chance and buy the bike. Again, would not recommend it, would not suggest it to anyone. But if you do the inspection thoroughly, you know, watch more videos than just this one, do your research on what you should check for. You know, you could do it and just bring it home with the truck if you're not familiar with riding. But once again, want to emphasize this, I don't recommend doing that. You want to make sure the bike is in good and working condition before you bring it home. You don't want to spend thousands of dollars on something that might not work just because you assumed it would work because it looked good, but you really want to make sure it rides good. There's stuff that you can't see with your eyes that could be wrong. And if you just buy the bike without riding it, you're not going to notice those things. And you're going to be very, very angry that you spent that much money on something that doesn't work. And now you can't ride. If you want to see a video about the MSF course, let me know. I did take that a while ago, about 5 years ago. So I will have to remember small details about it. But yeah, if you're interested in that and how you can pass it, let me know in the comments below. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.